Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Alise A, and today's video is going to be about the Aquarius full moon. It's happening on August 1st at 2:31 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so you can translate that to wherever you are in the world. And as we know, with all full moons, this means that we have a sun and moon opposition. So the moon is at 9 degrees, almost 10 degrees of Aquarius, and the sun is at 9 or almost 10 degrees of Leo. And so whenever we have a full moon, as we said, this means there's an opposition, and there's actually a couple oppositions we want to talk about at this full moon. So we know that with the full moon, this means the sun is shining its light on our own internal world, and in this case our Aquarius consciousness. So how we relate to our own Aquarius consciousness internally, right? And this could also, because Aquarius is a yang sign, this could also have to do with how that gets expressed in our lives. So maybe groups that we've been involved in our lives, friendships that we've been involved in our lives, and connections we've been involved in, maybe even our family. Aquarius can definitely be representative of our family and our family line as well, because Aquarius is ruled or guided by Saturn and Uranus, two different signs there. And so this can really be shining a light on our own individuality within whatever groups we found ourselves in. And have we felt liberated by our groups or friendships where we can have room to grow and expand our consciousness and learn new things and kind of express our own personal unique brilliance, something that's very individual to us, our own unique light, our own personal creativity. Have we been able to do that? And have we not been able to do that, where we would experience this Saturnian rulership of Aquarius? And so we may have found ourselves maybe in our family line or within our groups that we felt restricted to creatively express ourselves or creatively self-actualize our own unique and brilliant light. And so this full moon would definitely be bringing that up for review, which is great, right? Because we get the opportunity to make those assessments and notice where it is we may feel emotionally agitated, because remembering that oppositions can bring friction, they can bring a challenge, because we are seeing where it is we may not be able, or we're finding areas we may not be able to actually fuse these archetypal consciousness or this archetypal axis in our own lives, in our own consciousness. So being Leo and Aquarius. And remember that Leo is about our self-actualization process. It's about our own personal creativity. And it is about self-actualizing and embodying what we really truly love, like what is really actually in our heart. And so what's interesting has been really the lead up to the full moon, and I find it's really important to talk about. I had planned to do a separate video about Venus retrograde, but I ended up doing a bunch of lives on my Facebook page, so you're always welcome to follow me there, where you can find, I do a lot of lives on there, just because it's real easy to just hop on and talk about my inspirations with astrology. So you're certainly welcome to find me there. It's just my name, Alise A. I have a lot of astrology videos on my personal page. I also do have an astrology page that you can find there as well. It's the same name as this YouTube channel, so you can find me there on Facebook. And so I do write-ups and postings and I do share my lives there on my Facebook page. But so instead of doing a separate video here, that's what I did. But I will actually cover some very important pieces of this Venus retrograde, because Venus is in Leo and the Sun's in Leo, and it's been actually doing quite a lot. There's been a lot of Leo activity lately, and as we lead up to the full moon. And this is some important pieces that likely brought some things up that is going to assist us navigating the emotional content that can come up at the full moon. So Venus has actually gone retrograde. It went retrograde on July 22nd, 23rd, wherever you are in the world, one of those days, right? And but first we want to go all the way back to July 9th. On July 9th, July 8th/9th, Mars was in Leo, and Mars and Venus have a very special relationship. And it's special because Mars is our yang consciousness and Venus is our yin consciousness. And so this is the creative lovers, how we apply consciousness towards that which we desire, which is Mars, and Venus, how then through our application of consciousness or energy, we actually receive back from the environment and from the quality of consciousness that we've been applying. And we can see, do we need to actually make some changes in the way in which we're moving with our Mars, in which we're actually creating momentum with applying our consciousness and our energy, Mars. And so that's why Mars with Aries is like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Like, we're going to take 2 steps forward towards something, but we need to take a step back and make sure that that's the direction we really want to go. And that's actually what we want to create. And so it is a little bit of a learning process. And naturally so, being that Mars rules Aries, this is the first sign of the wheel of consciousness. So this is how we initiate new things in our lives and new chapters in our lives. And so when things are new, we have some learning to do, right? So we do need to take those 2 steps forward and 1 step back and receive back. And are we really receiving the quality of consciousness we're really moving forward with, that we desire to move forward with? Do we need to make adjustments, right? And so it's important that Mars actually formed a Yod. And a Yod is actually a aspect between 3 planets where you've got 2 planets that are in sextile to each other, which is a real ease and flow of energy and consciousness. It's like they really they get along, meaning that it's just nice, it's easy, it's just clicks, Now, the thing is you've got those 2 planets, but then you have what's called an apex to those 2 planets. And this forms the Yod, or the apex of the Yod. And this is what a Yod formation is, where you have 2 planets that are sextile to each other, and then you have a planet that is quincunx both of those 2 planets that are sextile. So Mars was the apex of the Yod on July 8th, July 9th, with 2 planets, Neptune retrograde in Pisces and Pluto retrograde in Capricorn. And a Yod, because, well, first of all, what is a quincunx? A quincunx is an aspect, it's a measurement of the angle between 2 energies or planetary functions, where there's this kind of agitating energy. Something isn't quite fitting right. Something is a little bit, almost, it can feel like something's a little out of place, or it's a little awkward. It's not flowing smoothly. And so whatever's at the apex is kind of like, I don't quite know exactly how to relate to these 2 planets in a way where I can integrate them both, and where really all of the planets are actually integrated within our consciousness. And so this Mars at the apex with Pluto retrograde in Capricorn and Neptune retrograde in Pisces was like this area where we had to find where it is that we could actually improve. So it's this aspect of self-improvement. It's a Virgoan aspect in consciousness where we're self-improving, right? Where we're improving something, or we're cleansing something around how we're integrating all 3 planets based on the signs and houses that they're in our own natal charts, right? And then collectively just the signs that they're in. And so Mars being the apex in Leo, this could have really been looking at how we're applying our energy, Mars, and how we're doing that to self-actualize that which we love and to actually embody what we love, to actually apply our consciousness in a way where we're creatively self-actualizing what it is that we desire to be in the world and contribute in the world with our own personal, unique brilliance and light. And so what we want to create, right? And so the thing is, though, is that Pluto and Neptune are both outer planets. And so this really shows that those two planets are really about, one is that they're maybe about, well, with Pluto and Capricorn, conditionings that we may have bought into, or conditions that we may have created in our past, or even learned in our own family line, that has restricted the way in which we actually are structuring our consciousness. So in other words, the way we've structured our consciousness is restricting this new thing that we desire to embody or desire to create. And so what conditionings are we needing to release? And likely this means there's been belief systems that we've taken on that actually are out of alignment with our true essence, at least in this moment, right? Maybe those beliefs served us at one time, but we're always evolving and growing. And when we're creating something new, it might mean that we need to actually look at our beliefs. And so therefore, remembering that Jupiter is about our beliefs, and Jupiter is in Taurus. And so this is around our own values and value. And so, and can be self-esteem and self-worth, and our own heart chakra as well. And so because all of these planets that I'll be talking about have been in Leo, they've been squaring that Jupiter. So this is partly why I want to bring this to the conversation, because even though Jupiter's not part of the Yod, Jupiter is also the ruler of Pisces. And so when we have planets in Pisces, we're still kind of talking about Jupiter. And so this can be beliefs that we've actually osmosed from the collective unconscious. And this can be based on the area. Well, it could be the area. It could be the culture that we've been born into, or that we've been surrounded by, that has informed beliefs in our lives, or given us information that we learned, that we actually formed beliefs from, but that may not actually be serving us personally. And so we can be looking at that and how those beliefs have actually literally supported our structure of consciousness up to now. But that structure of consciousness can actually be restricting our new creations, what we desire to embody now, and who we desire to become, and who we desire to be now. And so Mars, as it is in this quincunx to Pluto in Capricorn that's retrograde, can be like, okay, is there any more cleaning up that we need to be doing around how we're structuring our internal reality? Because remember that Pluto will go into Aquarius, and for good, for 20 years. And so that's going to be opposing Leo. And so this is going to be exposing what is it that's actually inhibiting us, in a way where we feel restricted to actually self-actualize our personal and unique brilliance and light and creativity in the world, in our lives. Now, being that Mars was quincunx to the Neptune retrograde, we could again say, hey, it's beliefs. Jupiter rules Neptune, but also also Neptune rules Pisces. And so this is really the ocean of consciousness, and how we, can just osmose these ideas and thoughts and perceptions and belief systems from the collective unconscious. It's like, do fish really know that they're swimming in water? Just like, really, air is a lighter form of water. Do we actually really think about that we're kind of swimming through the air, right? And so it's like we can just osmose and not even think about we're breathing oxygen, and so it's just what we naturally do. So this is like kind of representative of like this Neptune retrograde in Pisces, is that we could just naturally just like not even realize that we're osmosing these ideas and thoughts and perceptions and beliefs, when actually, we could actually really create any ideas, thoughts, beliefs that support us personally, because we're each a unique essence of the divine, which is Pisces, Virgo, right? And so this quincunx to Neptune retrograde can also be about what beliefs, what ideas, what thoughts and perceptions have I osmosed from the collective unconscious that have limited my dream reality, like what I dream of being and becoming, and what my aspirations, inspirations are, So that's an important piece. So likely you had something going on in your life where you might have felt that. Now, then Venus stationed retrograde literally at the apex of the Yods. So Mars went on into Virgo, and then Venus moved on through Leo, and then went to the apex of the Yod. And so this is all around 28 degrees of Leo, right? And 28 Capricorn, 28, 27, 28, Neptune retrograde. So in Pisces. So Venus at the apex, and she's stationed exactly on as the apex of that Yod. So this is then bringing in this Venusian piece, our heart chakra, and how we might need to be making adjustments around our own personal values and really valuing ourselves, really recognizing where there may have been areas that we were conditioned not to value ourselves, not to be our own authority, and not to really recognize our own resourcefulness as well as our own light as a resource to others and in our relationships. And this can definitely also be bringing in, are my relationships really honoring my light? Are my relationships really valuing me? And this can definitely also bring in a piece around, as I said, because all of these planets in Leo have been squaring Jupiter then Uranus. And this can also be bringing in stuff around truth versus lies, because that is the Jupiter, Sagittarius, Gemini, Mercury consciousness. So Jupiter, wherever it is, it's going to make everything bigger, and it's going to expose where there may be lies that we've bought into around our own value, maybe where we're not really honoring our value by not being honest about who we are. Maybe others have not been honest with us about who they are. And is that really working for us in regards to equality in relationship, and being in relationship where we really can trust our relationships as well as ourselves, right? And I say this because Venus is the ruler now of the South Node in Libra. And so this has to do with our relationships. It has to do with the Yang form of Venus, where we've attracted things to us to support our internal Venus, which is the Venus rulership of Taurus. We know we just came out of an 18-month cycle where the North Node was in Taurus and the Venus was the ruler of the North Node. So we've been doing all this work internally, yin sign, Taurus and Scorpio, both of those are yin signs, around our own personal heart chakra, our own value and values and valuing ourselves, and our own power, our own expression of power and empowerment. Really working with intimate bonds, Scorpio, making sure that our intimate bonds and those that we invest ourselves, those that we share our heart with, those that we actually are intimate with and we share our resources with, that there is, it's in alignment with it being empowering to us and empowering for them, right? And now that Venus is the ruler of the South Node, this is the Yang form of Libra. So this is actually continuing that journey, but from more of an outer level. And so as the nodes were shifting from Scorpio, Taurus to Libra, Aries, and that happened on the 22nd, I believe it. Let me make sure that, no, that happened on the 18th. So July 18th, that happened on July 18th. We could have been experiencing some of feeling that shift where we're becoming aware even more of our outer relationships, and are they really reflecting a mutual empowering energy between us? Is it a good investment for us? Is it a good investment for another? And because Jupiter is in Taurus and Uranus is in Taurus, this can really be about honesty and self-honesty first, of course, and then honesty in our relationships. So with the Venus stationing at the retrograde, Venus stationing retrograde at the apex, then this was, with this quincunx with Neptune retrograde in Pisces and Pluto retrograde in Capricorn. And so this can be, well, how are you structuring your reality and your own consciousness around relationships? And then maybe even looking at, well, what are the results of that so far? And are there adjustments to be made? And then with it to the Neptune, where is it that we may have been deceived? Where, in other words, with Pisces, this can definitely be this, glamour, or this like kind of really, it can be smoke and mirrors. Pisces has to do with, the ocean of consciousness, and it can have to do with actors and actresses and musicians and artists, and so it can be where, and also media and movies and things like that, and it can definitely be where we may have realized that people that were not honest with us, we were actually in a relationship with someone that it was basically like a simulation. The whole relationship was kind of like a simulation, right? It was like, it was a simulated version of a person because they were not being honest about who they are. And so this is important because remember, the North Node's in Aries, and this is about our identity and also about authenticity, because Capricorn is about authenticity. And so if we're coming from a place where we're not being honest, Jupiter, Sag, then we're going to structure our reality internally where we're not authentic and we're not really in our full integrity. And so we can have experienced that, and we could have maybe seen ways where we haven't been authentic ourselves, where maybe we were putting something kind of stuffing something under the rug about a situation or a relationship in some way. Maybe we weren't paying attention to the cues. Maybe we weren't being honest with ourselves about how we've invested in relationships that actually weren't meeting our needs, or that we didn't know our needs. We didn't know what our needs were, so we realized that now our relationships are really, if we continue further, they would not be authentic, because we found that we have new needs based on coming into more of our identity and more of our integrity, more of our own authority. And, this could have come from osmosing belief systems from the collective unconscious, thinking, well, we've got to be seen as good. We've got to be seen as this way or that way. So therefore, I can't necessarily really be completely honest and vulnerable with my friendships or my relationships in some way. So this is the quincunx. This is the area of adjustment that must be made in order to actually truly embody our own unique light and our own personal creativity. And in order to actually receive that which we love, because the thing is that, if we can't be honest in our vibration, if we're not honest and we're not acting on behalf of our own truth, then we're actually creating a dissonance in our vibration with our Mars, because we're actually acting upon beliefs that are not supporting us, our true identity and what we truly desire in our lives. So therefore, we're just going to keep attracting what we don't want, because the universe can only mirror back to us what we're actually acting on. And so we want to keep that in mind with these Yods. Now, what's interesting too is on July 28th, Mercury conjuncted Venus retrograde at that Yod. And so we had Mercury, Venus, both conjunct. Venus was retrograde at the apex of the Yod. So this is, again, what kind of information, what kind of awarenesses were we having around our own communication and and maybe information that our relationships have communicated back to us. What's going on around our perceptions, thoughts, ideas, and our relationships. And so that's very potent. And remember that, Mars has moved on into Virgo, which is ruled by Mercury. And so this kind of ties them all in, So this is very much a very, very important Yods. Making sure that we're getting the information we need so that we can make sure that we're investing our energy with discernment. And discernment is very different than judgment. So we're going to talk about that, because we've got planets that are all going to go right into Virgo. So all these planets that have been in Leo, they're all going to just eventually get into Virgo, which is about utilizing our discernment. So once that happens, I'll just go ahead and say that in order for us to actually create, we must have discernment. We must funnel our consciousness in the appropriate ways. Otherwise, we leak energy and we're actually just going to attract what we don't want, right? Now, discernment is about applying energy with almost like strategically. And discernment is just really like, this is going to serve me. This idea is going to serve me and what I desire to embody. This idea, serves what I see as divine and is of source. It matches my relationship to source, or the ultimate creator, God, however you want to call that, and my connection, we're all sourced by God, right? So we want to be honest about that. And the thing is that, So discernment is really about, the thing is there's so many different belief systems, there's so many different ideas, and you can see that the world really honors them all, right? There's a place for all of it, but not all ideas and beliefs are actually going to serve our personal unique purpose. And so we need to actually recognize that the truth, the ultimate truth, encompasses all truths, which is this like ultimate, you know, the ultimate creator is actually experiencing itself through so many different avenues and angles of consciousness itself. And so that's why there's so many different belief systems to choose from, because they actually do serve a purpose somewhere, somehow. It wouldn't even be able to exist if it didn't, right? So there's this saying from one of my teachers, creation doesn't make mistakes, right? So it's just that we need discernment based on what we desire to create for ourselves and how we desire to contribute light in the world personally. And this is Leo, right? And Virgo. Now, okay, there's your all about Yods. I know that was 30 minutes, but you wanted to know that. I really think you would want to know that, because that's the lead up to this full moon in Aquarius. Now, at the full moon, as I said, it happens 2:31 Eastern Standard Time, and that's 2:31 p.m. So where is that happening? When is that happening for you? You can translate that to where you are in the world. And Mercury, well, first of all, the ruler of the full moon is Saturn and Uranus, because Saturn and Uranus rule Aquarius, or guide Aquarius consciousness, right? And so we always want to look at, well, what's the rulers doing? Well, Saturn and Mercury are in an opposition. So Mercury is at 5 degrees and 14 minutes of Virgo, and it's opposing Saturn retrograde in Pisces. And it's approaching the opposition because the Saturn is 5 degrees 40 minutes. So it's waxing to that opposition. It's in an opposition, but the fact that it's even waxing by a handful of minutes, right? Or some minutes, right? 20 minutes or something like that of the sign, that's potent. And so this can definitely be, well, you know, the thing is that how can we actually express our own personal unique brilliance and creativity and self-actualization if we're actually not having discernment around our own contribution of light in the world, and how and our own discernment around our perceptions and ideas, and being honest about them? And yet also remembering that Virgo is the archetype of self-improvement. And so this is about improving oneself beyond the ego. Leo is the formation of the ego. From Aries to Leo is the formation of the ego. So this is where we actually recognize that the ego can become inflated and need to practice discernment. Now, if the ego is inflated, it'll actually practice judgment. So it will judge the collective. It will judge others within the collective rather than have discernment. So it will actually forsake compassion, the Piscean compassion, and judge others for their own personal learning process and their own personal connection to their own evolutionary purpose within the collective unconscious and the collective consciousness. And so this is why it's so key to utilize discernment. Oh, this works for me, this doesn't work for me. Maybe it works for someone else, or maybe it is serving a purpose for another's learning process. However, an expansion of consciousness, right? Jupiter rules Pisces. But it doesn't serve me and what it is that I am bringing of service to the collective. And so this is where it's really important to get that discernment, because if we don't get the discernment piece and we actually judge, we continue the inflated ego into our relationships, Aries and Libra. And, you know, one of the things that I talked about in some of my Facebook lives about the Yods is that this is very much about how we may have osmosed, or we may have learned through our family line or conditioning, conditional love. So instead of being unconditionally loved by authority figures, by our parents, by our family, we might have learned conditional love that actually stifled our own self-actualization process and our own natural, unique brilliance and creativity that we are here to embody and create and contribute as light in the world. And so when you think about it, when there has been so much judgment in not only society, but also even within religions and religious and spiritual practices, we, through the Piscean age, may have learned and gotten out of alignment with the natural essence of any kind of religion or family structure or consciousness, where we learned conditional love. We became judged because someone else didn't understand our own process, Virgo, Pisces, process. They didn't understand our own learning process in the self-actualization process. So we may have been shamed. We may have been guilt-tripped. We may have been blamed as a child, particularly. Or we may have seen other adults do that to others, or other authority figures do that to others, or others do that to our parents. Others do that to those in our family line. And so we may have learned conditional love. Therefore, we may have learned to conditionally love ourselves. And so this restricted our self-actualization of our own love nature. And so this is where then it is very challenging for us to have compassion if we do not have unconditional love. It is also very challenging to actually create in our lives when we do not embody unconditional love. And why do I say that? Because the natural essence of creation is unconditional love. And so we may, when we are not in alignment with unconditional love, then our lives are likely, we're going to come up to boundaries and restrictions that we do not desire, because we are not the embodiment of unconditional love. We are not giving others or the collective the freedom, or other individuals the freedom for their own learning process and their own connection to source consciousness, and as a divine expression of source consciousness, just as equally as we are. So when we judge, we actually limit our capacity to embody love and therefore create that which we love. So this is where Mercury opposing the Saturn retrograde in Pisces can give us this information where we can see, where do I need to apply discernment? Where have I maybe been judging and actually coming out of alignment with unconditional love for myself and for others? This does not mean we do not have boundaries. Boundaries are only discernment. So where that Mercury opposing Saturn retrograde can be, where do we need to apply boundaries? That's really with discernment, meaning, oh, that's not good for me. Maybe it's good for you, but this isn't really resonating for me or with me. It doesn't serve me. So thank you, but no thank you. And instead of projecting, Mars and Virgo, judgment onto others. Getting ourselves out of alignment with unconditional love, compassion, and therefore our capacity to create that which we desire in our lives, and that which we desire to embody in our lives as an expression of what we see as divine and what we perceive as divine. So, very important piece there with this full moon. Now, what's interesting is Mars is trine Jupiter. Mars is in Virgo, and it's exactly approaching, within 3 minutes, approaching or waxing trine to Jupiter in Taurus. So again, where are we projecting our own belief systems onto others and actually devaluing our own belief systems? If we're projecting onto others, we're not really actually owning our own belief systems, and that could become much bigger. So Jupiter, remember, makes everything bigger. So with that trine, there's like an ease and making it bigger where we're realizing, okay, I need to apply Mars boundaries and implement boundaries in a discerning way. Or, wow, I'm seeing where I'm really projecting onto other people, projecting onto the collective, projecting onto anyone and everyone or specific things that is judging others. And it's actually exposing where I'm projecting and where I come out of alignment with my identity. Because our truest identity is unconditional love, because we all come from source. So we may have just learned conditional love. And so this can give us the opportunity to make adjustments and to actually come into alignment with unconditional love for ourselves, and also not create self-doubt within ourselves, recognizing we're in a process of learning and making adjustments so that we can embody our own personal love nature, which equates to embodying what we love, exactly how we desire to be in the world, with all the resources and resourced in all the ways that support that. So, what else did I want to tell you about this? I just want to share with you that Venus is going to square Uranus on August 10th. Venus is going to square Jupiter on August 23rd. This is in her retrograde, okay? And on the August 23rd, when Venus squares Jupiter, Mercury is going to station retrograde at 21 degrees of Virgo. So that's very, very, very important, especially as an addition to what I was just talking about with this full moon, where Mars is trining Jupiter. Because remember, Mars and Venus work very closely together. And this is about the embodiment of our own creativity and applying energy out in the world, or applying our consciousness to actually create that which we desire in the world. And therefore create the quality of light that we desire in the world, and that we actually desire to contribute in the world. So that Mercury stationing retrograde while Venus exactly squares Jupiter, that's very poignant, and it is very much about, let's go into our intuitive nature. Mercury retrogrades are going to actually have us draw consciousness inward, where we're looking at information with our intuitive nature. And so throughout the full moon and this time where Mercury's in Virgo direct, we can be gathering information around how it is that we're actually discerning information, how we're communicating information, how we're communicating our consciousness and how others are communicating to us and with us. And we can actually, through the Mercury retrograde, get the intuitive understandings, the more holistic picture, because this is about our left brain and right brain thinking. Whereas Mercury is our left brain thinking, Jupiter is our right brain intuitive function. But the Mercury retrogrades are bringing in that right brain intuitive function. So this is about the holistic big picture, right? Not just our linear thinking, gathering information, this and this and this and that and that and that. The retrograde is going to be where then we go internal and actually we slow down, and then we get these intuitive hits, right? We get this intuition, the psychic part of our brains that can psychically understand information and what's been going on within our own psyche and also within others' psyches as well. And so just to let you know, Venus will, Venus, I believe, goes direct on September 3rd, 4th. Yep, at 12 degrees of Leo. And then Mercury goes direct September 15th. So just so you have that information. So this Aquarius full moon is, it's pretty powerful. And remember, because of the oppositions and what's going on with Mars and Venus, the nodes of the moon are in Aries and Libra, which is really about, it's the signature of oppositions, because Libra is the first opposition in the wheel of consciousness of the zodiac. So this has to do with, projections, how we project our consciousness out there, and then how we receive back from anything and everything in the outside world, and what we see as the outside world. But the outside world is actually just what we've been projecting, reflecting back to us. And so whatever's being reflected back to us emotionally through this Aquarius full moon can give us great information around our own self-actualization process and what may be inhibiting our self-actualization process. And remembering that this can be an incredible opportunity to actually grow our heart chakra and actually recognize where we may have been wounded as children or in our own creative process throughout our lives in some way or another. And now we're getting the information that can assist us to actually let go of these beliefs or thoughts, perceptions, or even projections that have limited us in our own self-actualization of our love, in our own unique brilliance. So I'm going to read to you the Inside Degrees. This is by Alise A. He basically, it's very poetic, and he actually describes every degree of the whole zodiac, so 360 degrees, right? And so I want to read this to you because it's pretty potent and it makes a lot of sense with everything that I just said. So Aquarius, we always round up with this, so because it's at 9 degrees and some minutes, we're going to read Aquarius 10. So it reads, a black raven with a bright red head, a watcher, poised, observant, keen, seeing into souls, negatively disposed, absolutely alert to what is wrong, to what is missing, to what should be changed. Fabulously mental, with a gargantuan appetite for trouble, for difficulties, for crises. Scavenger, bird of prey. Karmic endowment of a strange kind, susceptible to the dark, wandering in a maze, knowing just where you are, but not who you are. Identity is eclipsed by the necessity to be effective in action. You are compelled from within to make yourself useful, to do the dirty work, to get down under. Gravitating toward the impossible and somewhat blind to the pitfalls of such a way of operating, you ferret out the facts. You serve a power behind the scenes and are obedient to a fault. Whew, that's powerful. And the reason why I say that is that last sentence particularly. And I want to point out two sentences that are important here. Knowing just where you are. Well, first of all, three sentences, okay? We'll do that for the Mercury piece. Wandering in a maze. Knowing just where you are, but not who you are. Identity is eclipsed by the necessity to be effective in action. You serve a power behind the scenes and are obedient to a fault. Okay, that was actually 4 sentences. So let's use 4 for transformation. So if you don't already know, 4 is the number for transformation. What is transformation? But we're actually rearranging things. We're just rearranging energy. We transform by rearranging how we're applying energy. And so Aquarius is very much about transformation. And Pluto is very much about transmutation. So we're mutating from one thing into another, one aspect of ourselves into another, right? Now, because Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, this is transformation. So it's appropriate that we used 4 sentences of that. So the reason I find that to be really important is because, remember, we were talking about we may have needed to be obedient as children. We felt the necessity to because we felt our survival and our needs were on the line. You know, if you think about a child that has authority figures or parents or teachers or a society that is judging its expression in some moment or another, and maybe in a harsh way, rather than a kind and with unconditional love way, then a child may have had to be obedient, had to actually transform into something that it wasn't in order to be obedient, to transform its identity into something that it wasn't natural to itself. And really, the Leo, Aquarius, and Taurus, Scorpio axis in consciousness is about aligning with the natural self, who we're designed to be, not who we're told to be, but who we're designed to be. And it's very painful to not be who we're designed to be. And when we are not being who we're designed to be, we tend to actually judge others and discern others, judge others rather than discern, but also judge ourselves rather than discern for ourselves what is good for us, right? Because we've actually learned to give our power away. Taurus, Scorpio, Venus, Mars, Pluto, with Aquarius, Saturn, Uranus, and the Sun, Leo. So this is about recognizing where we may have actually forgone our true identity in order to be obedient to authority figures, to society. Now, this doesn't mean that we actually forego all, boundaries, meaning that there really are some results that we do not desire to experience. And so in order to not experience those, so that we can safely create in the world, we want to obey those laws, right? But it's out of obedience to our discernment, to actually not distort the light, but actually to express the light, which is unconditional love. In the creative process, it is about expressing our love unconditionally, right? And so this, because, especially because the North Node's in Aries, this can really be having us look at, where is it that I've forgotten my true natural core essence and my identity to be obedient? Where did I learn that? And where is it that I've actually had wrong relationships and wrong relating, projections and projecting in relationships that has been out of alignment with my true natural core essence and my natural true identity and that which I desire to create? Where is it that I haven't created good relationships in my lives because I'm not even who I am? I'm not even actually being honest with who I am and what I really desire and what I really want and who I really am. And, you know, people that are part of our ecstatic identity and our ecstatic life cannot find us if we are not being who we are, if we're actually being dishonest about who we are. And we may have been dishonest because we were actually told to be obedient in inappropriate ways, in ways that was to the detriment of our true identity, and therefore eventually the detriment of the relationships that would support us in our natural light, our natural core essence, who we truly are. We cannot actually attract relationships who can actually truly support us if we're not honest with who we are. And so this is what this full moon can really bring up, especially in regards to friendships, because Aquarius is about friendships, but also groups, family, and, you know, groups of like-minded individuals, right? Aquarius. So this can be, you know, you want to find your quote unquote, some people use tribe, some people say don't use tribe because of the indigenous people. So I do not mean to say that in an inappropriate manner, but it's really just meant to honor that phrase, because it is a beautiful phrase, and it is around, you know, really your people who are resourcing you, who get you, who love you, who care about you and desire to support you, and it's natural for them to support you, right? We're likely going to attract relationships who do not support us when we're, you know, they don't know how to support us because they don't know who they are, or they don't know who we are, right? So this is the work of the Aries Libra nodes, and it can have relationships falling away if we have relationships that are not based on mutual trust and mutual honor and mutual honesty about who we are, what we need, and what we value. So I hope this has been helpful. If it is, please let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. It always makes the conversation more rich. If you feel like sharing anything about how this video lands for you or anything in your own life, you're certainly welcome to. I love interacting with you. If you find this helpful, please do like the video, share the love, share the video if you feel inspired. If you think someone else might like to see this and get something from it, please do subscribe to the channel if you feel inclined, and if you'd like, I would love to have you as a subscriber if this resonates. And if there's any information that you would like to hear from me, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to do a video on it. So if there's information that you want a video on, please let me know in the comments. Let me know if there's anything you want me to elaborate on that I talked about in this video. I'd be happy to. So thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you on the next video.